Hi everyone, I'm Myron Silverstein, the creator of Piano Unlocked. I'm a concert pianist, and I'm here to share with you the exact same tricks and tips that I use when I'm learning music. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to get alerts when I put new videos up. Also, make sure to subscribe to my email list at pianounlocked.com to get each new tip as soon as I put it online. Today I'm going to teach you how to practice scales so that they're fast, confident, and impressive. Now, scales are something that every piano teacher assigns and that every student practices, but has anyone ever told you why? I promise they're not just busy work. Scales are one of the most basic building blocks of Western music, from classical to jazz, from Broadway to pop and rock and everything else. They show up in the music constantly. So no matter what you're planning on playing on the piano, scales are going to be a big part of the music that you play. So when you work on scales, you're not just doing an exercise, you're learning something that you can use right away in hundreds and hundreds of pieces of music. This is one of Mozart's most famous, most frequently played piano sonatas, and it's one of the more user-friendly ones too. If you've taken piano lessons for a few years, it might be one of the first big pieces you'll learn. And right on its first page, there's scale after scale after scale. Since I'm already comfortable with the scales on this page, I won't have to struggle with them if I want to learn the sonata. I can just plug them right in. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't practice the sonata, or even that I won't practice the scales when I'm working on the sonata, but I won't have to figure them out the way I'd have to figure out other tricky sections of a piece with patterns that I'm not already familiar with. Just for another example, here's one of my favorite Chopin nocturnes. All those grace notes look a little intimidating, don't they? But it's just a scale going up and down. And if you're comfortable with scales, you already know how to play this part of the nocturne, even if you've never seen it before. Plus, aside from saving you time and stress when you come across a scale in your music, learning scales helps you get used to the general patterns that you'll find in a lot of music. Like I said earlier, scales are one of the most basic building blocks of Western music. So even if a piece of music doesn't have a big, fast scale in it, it will almost definitely have part of a scale. In fact, melodies often move step by step up or down a scale. And if you know the scales, then as you see the key signature to a piece of music, you'll already be ready for the patterns that it's likely to use. It's almost like your fingers will already be prepared for where they'll have to go. And that's because if you practice scales really effectively, you'll have trained your mind to associate certain key signatures with certain patterns of finger motions. So let's get started learning how to practice scales. C major is the first scale most people learn, so let's use that for our example. The first thing to do is to spend a couple of days playing it really slowly. When I say really slowly, I mean slowly enough that you can be 100% absolutely sure about what finger goes where and when, and what motion you're going to use to get that finger there. Where will you turn your thumb on your right hand? Where on your left hand? So as I practice the scale, I'm thinking things like, okay, I've played C and D. My next note is going to be E, with the third finger on both hands. But immediately, I'm going to turn my thumb under the third finger on my right hand. But I'm not going to change position at all in my left hand. That's not going to happen until after this next note, G. And then I'm going to turn my third finger over my thumb. But I'm not going to change anything in my right hand. See, practicing slowly is not just about slowing things down. It's about giving yourself enough space for all of these thoughts to get really solid in your mind before you play the next note. Go through the scale like that 3 times in a row. After each time, think through what was easy and what was difficult for you, Ask what you need to focus on to make the difficult parts easy. Do that for 2 or 3 days. It probably won't take more than 10 minutes each day. And then you're ready for the next step. One of the biggest challenges when you're playing scales is to keep them even. We don't want the thumb to accent when you turn it. We don't really want any accents, just a perfect, pearly, even scale. But instead of trying not to accent with the thumb, we're going to give every finger a chance to accent a note. That way, we'll break the habit of one finger or one note being more prominent than the others. First, we'll play the scale as if it were written in eighth notes, up and down 2 octaves, with a slight pulse or little accent every 2 notes. Once you're completely confident playing that, you can start playing the scale in triplets, this time for 3 octaves. Don't stop playing the scale in eighth notes, by the way. Just add a round of triplets after your scale in eighth notes. You'll notice that different fingers play the pulses this time now that you're in triplets. And then, when you've mastered that, well, you've probably already guessed, add 4 octaves of 16th notes. Now, it's true, my 16th notes were twice as fast as my 8th notes, but they weren't really outrageously fast. So what do we need to do to get to play really fast scales? This is my favorite way to practice scales. You rest on the long note for as long as you need to visualize the motions that you'll use to get to the next note, and then you zoom on ahead to the next long note. This one is not a rhythmic exercise. You can spend all the time you need on the long note, and it can be a different amount of time each time. Right now, I'm imagining myself zooming up to the next octave. I'm thinking of where I'm going to turn my thumb in each hand. I'm almost feeling the motion in my arms as I think of it. I'm preparing my right hip to lean a little bit to propel me up to the next octave. And then I've landed on the next long note. My 4th finger has already crossed over my thumb in the left hand, and I'm prepared to do it again. And I can make the interval between long notes as long or as short as I need. If I'm consistently having difficulty in the middle of the scale, I might go through only 4 or 5 notes at a time. If I'm trying to go for absolute lightning speed, I might go through 9 or even 10 notes. Start your scale practice with these exercises, the 8th notes, the triplets, the 16th notes, and the long note exercise, all in a row each day. And remember, this is after 2 or 3 days of nothing but slow scales, however long it takes for you to feel completely comfortable with the scale. Then, once you've done these exercises in a row, finish your scale practice with one more slow scale to cement the finger patterns in your mind. At the end of the week, try playing the scale and see how fast you're comfortable playing it. And then start again the next week with a few days of slow scales followed by these exercises. And your scales will get faster, more secure, and more impressive every week. I've made a PDF for you with all the major and minor scales and their fingerings. And I've also written out the scale exercises I've shown you using the C major scale as an example. You can download it from pianounlocked.com/technique. Just find the post called How to Practice Scales and download the PDF from the bottom of the post. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please comment below this video. And if it would be helpful for me to work closely with you as you learn your music, please send me an email at myron@pianounlocked.com to set up individual consultation. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon to find out when my next video is up. Also, subscribe to my email list at pianounlocked.com. Until next time, happy practicing!